Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be looking at how do you find the slope, the x-intercept, the y-intercepts when they give you an equation, so similar to this problem you see up on the screen. Just a reminder, this is the short version of the lesson, so we're going to go pretty quickly just through the main points. If you'd like a full-length lesson where we go step by step with a bunch of examples, I will link that in the description below. Before attempting this lesson, you should already know about slope-intercept form, you should know how to solve equations, and optionally, if you want a shortcut, you should know about point slope. If you'd like refreshers on any of those concepts, I will link them in the description. All right, so here's our problem. It says find the slope of the line, okay? And so we're to find the slope, if we don't know about point slope, then we're gonna put it in slope-intercept. And slope-intercept means that we need to get y by itself. So we need to solve this for the y. So first step, let's distribute. Again, I'm going to go through this part pretty quickly because we should already know how to solve these equations. And then we need to add 8 on both sides. And so our final answer in slope-intercept is this. And now we should be able to look at this and say, oh, it's in slope-intercept, which means that the number next to the x is the slope. And so my slope is therefore -1/2. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that if you know about point slope, then this is a little bit of a shortcut here. Oops, not that. It's a little bit of a shortcut because remember, point slope form, this problem is given to us in point slope. All right, the original problem starts in point slope, which means that, oh, if I know it's point slope, then I know the slope is the number in front of the parentheses, and so therefore the slope is -1/2. Right? If it's in point slope, it gives you a shortcut, if it's in point slope. Now for these two problems, you'll notice that, first off, find the slope, and it's not in slope-intercept, it's not in point slope, so you need to solve for the y. All right, so we start with 10x plus 12y equals 24. We need to get the y by itself, so let's move the 10x. Again, we should know how to solve equations. So now we have 12y equals 24 minus 10x, and then we need to divide by 12, divide everything by 12, and we end up with y equals 2 minus 10 over 12x. 10 over 12 can be reduced to, not 5, yes, 5 over 6x. And now that we have it in y equals, remember the number in front of the x is your slope. And so my slope is -5 over 6. Final answer. For this problem on the right, okay, it's in y equals, and what we need to remember is it has a slope of 0. And here's the reason why, okay? They don't write the 0x because 0x is just 0, okay? But there is a 0x, and so we know that the number in front of the x is the slope. If you're familiar with graphing this, if I were to graph this line, we know it's a horizontal line hitting the y-axis at 0 or at 18. And remember, the slope of a horizontal line is always 0. That's a bonus if you know about vertical and horizontal lines. All right, real quick review here. X-intercepts. X-intercepts are where the line or the graph hits the x-axis, right? So for example, this is the x-axis. Where does the purple line hit it? It hits it at 6, 0. When we look at the green line, where does it hit the x-axis? -2, 0. And hopefully we notice that in both of these, the y-coordinate, the second number, is 0. Y equals 0 for an x-intercept. That's important. We're going to use it in just a second. Also, for a y-intercept, where does it hit the y-axis? It hits the y-axis at 0, -6. Cool. And what about over here? It hits the y-axis at 0, -1. So once again, the pattern is here the x equals 0. All right, really, really important for what we're about to do. Because this problem says find the x-intercept of the line. And I apologize, I just switched the problem on you because we needed a different example. So for this problem, it says find the x and y-intercepts of the line, blah, blah, blah. So let's start with the x-intercept. Okay, to find the x-intercept, remember we just said an x-intercept means that y equals 0. So we're going to change the y to a 0. And then we solve. 3 times 0 is 0, so now we have x plus 0 equals 24, and x equals 24. So there's our x-intercept. To find the y-intercept, we change the x to 0. So now we have 0 plus 3y equals 24. 3y equals 24. Divide by 3 on both sides. And now we have y equals 8. Final answer. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these 4 problems on your own. And when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For the first problem, it's already in y-intercept, slope-intercept form. So remember that there's an invisible 1 in front of the x, so my slope is just 1. For the second problem in the top right, this is a disguised or an invisible 0, so the slope is 0. For this bottom left problem, a little bit of work here, right? You change the y to 0, you solve the equation, you got to distribute. When you get to the end, you get x equals, 27 over 12, but that can be reduced to 9 over 4, final answer. And for the last problem, you change the x to 0, and you just end up with a y-intercept of 0. Shortcut for that problem would have been, this is in slope-intercept form, so the y-intercept is the number by itself if you know that shortcut. All right, that is it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.